In today's video, what we can learn as wedding professionals from a tragic shooting and death at a wedding reception. Coming up. Hey out there, everybody. Welcome back to Wedding Industry Law, the least popular YouTube channel dedicated to wedding professionals trying to keep it legal. We talk about all things operating a wedding business legally, contracts, client disputes, lawsuits, that type of thing. In today's video, I almost didn't want to talk about it because it's so serious, it's so heavy, but I wanted to talk about it because there are some pretty consequential lessons that we can learn from this tragic incident that occurred a little bit earlier in the year, and what we as wedding professionals can do to minimize the likelihood of such a tragedy happening again, how we can update our policies, update our procedures, update our contracts to minimize this type of loss. The incident that we're talking about today happened in February of 2022 in Winter Park, Florida. There was obviously a wedding, and there's a wedding reception that had been going on for at least a few hours because this happened at about 9:30 p.m. So the police receive a 911 call, and we don't know, at least I don't know, who made the call, but a couple of news reports intimate that it was probably someone working the event. So the 911 call says there's a person being extremely aggressive, shoving people. The 911 call says they saw the person allegedly shove an old lady, and the person is violent and very drunk. So that's the 911 call that sets the scene. So the police arrive and encounter at least somebody in the parking lot that says, glad you're here. Essentially, there's somebody that's aggressive around the corner. So the police go and they encounter a man named Daniel Knight. He's 39 years old. He's got 4 kids, and he's talking to his sister. And that's the scene that the police come up on. So the police, based on the 911 call and based on what happened when they arrived, they're, trying to separate the sister from Mr. Knight. Mr. Knight being the uncle of the bride, which makes this way sad. I mean, not that it wasn't sad anyway, but it's just a terrible thing. So so Mr. Knight essentially is in an altercation with the police, a verbal altercation, and then at some point, I believe that the police officer tries to separate the sister from Mr. Knight. Mr. Knight punches the police officer. I believe the police officer hits the ground. At least that's what it looks like from the body cam footage. Another officer tries to tase Mr. Knight, and according to the police testimony, the tasing didn't work, and then the police shot Mr. Knight 7 times, and he passed away at the hospital a little bit later on. So that's the scene. Now, of course, the family is disputing the 911 call. The family is saying that Mr. Knight was not aggressive at any point. I believe that there was a lady, it might have been somebody's mom, that said, I'm likely the person that was referenced in the call. I was never shoved. He helped me sit down in my chair. So all accounts of Mr. Knight being drunk or at least being intoxicated and being aggressive are being disputed by the family. And just as a quick aside, I'm not going to address in this video whether or not the police were justified in using lethal force against this man. I'm not going to talk about systemic racism in law enforcement. That's for other people and other videos. This video is specifically about whether or not there's any potential liability for any of the wedding professionals working the event or events like this. So I have my opinions about these things, but I'm not going to address it in this video. So that's why I'm not talking about it. So in terms of liability, I'm not talking about the cops. I'm not talking about whether this family would be successful in a suit against the cops. I'm only talking about wedding professionals. So this is the $64,000 question: is can a wedding professional be liable for a person dying from being shot by the cops at an event like this? And the lawyer answer is going to be that it depends. It's going to be very fact dependent. So, but at the end of the day, wedding professionals, you, me, the John Doe down the street, everyone is responsible for acting in a reasonably prudent way. if we are negligent, if we make intentional conduct, and that negligent conduct, the intentional conduct, gets somebody hurt, then typically the injured person is going to be able to sue for the losses and harms that they incurred based on your negligent or your intentional conduct, your wrongful behavior. So at the end of the day, that's why it depends. But as a bedrock principle of tort law, if you are dumb or you are intentionally dumb and your conduct hurts somebody, you're liable. So I'm not making any assumptions about Mr. Knight. I don't know for a fact whether he was intoxicated or not, whether he was being aggressive or not. But for the sake of this video, so that we can perhaps learn something, there is a concept called social host liability or dram shop law. And what that means is that a establishment, a wedding venue, a caterer, mixologist, bartender, any individual can be held responsible for injuries based on the serving of alcohol. So typically, and again, it depends on the jurisdiction you're in, because dram shop social guest law is super hairy from state to state. But typically, if you serve somebody that's already intoxicated, somebody that is habitually, to be habitually a drunkard, or someone that's under 21, if you negligently serve alcohol, that individual that is intoxicated hurts somebody else, then under dram shop or social host law, you can be responsible for that injured person for their harms and losses. And so that's in many jurisdictions, not all. In even fewer jurisdictions, the actual intoxicated person, if they are injured, they can sue and recover from the negligent party that served the alcohol. That's called first party dram shop law, but don't worry about that. So there is that concept where if Mr. Knight was negligently served alcohol, and again, this is Florida, they have super strange dram shop law, so just take it for what it's worth. But in jurisdictions that have standard dram shop laws, if Mr. Knight was served and negligently served, then it's possible that the whoever served that alcohol could be a defendant in a potential case. But again, Florida has its own dram shop laws, but in general, that's the concept, is that he potentially could have his estate could potentially have a claim against those that may have negligently served him. So what can we do as wedding professionals to prevent these type of situations? The first thing is if you are in the industry in which you are serving alcohol, it's to have policies and procedures in place for how to serve, how to spot intoxication, how to spot people going from, green light to red light. So that way you cut these people off, you get other people involved, you get the family involved, you get the guests involved. But having an organized structure, an organized policy that your people are trained on is essential. You have to have this. Being able to go down a checklist of these are the things that I'm doing to de-escalate whatever situation it is. Having that education, having that training, making sure that your people are qualified to do these things, it's got to be done. So policies and procedures is the number one thing you can do for your business. The second thing is to make sure that if you are serving alcohol, your people are serving alcohol, that they are properly licensed and trained to do so. Not just your own policies and procedures of how you do things, but the appropriate way to do it, to be licensed and trained under the laws of wherever it is that this is going down. I don't care where you are in the United States. If you're on a military base, if you're at the Cherokee Casino, I don't care. Hazard County, Bumpkinville, doesn't matter. There are going to be laws on how alcohol is served at that event. So if you are handing alcohol to anybody, make sure that your person is trained and licensed to do so. The third thing is going to be having a policies and procedures as it relates to dealing with problematic behavior at the event. So typically, I have my clients integrate this into their contract, which is to say that there is a guest behavior clause where if someone is behaving in a way that's aggressive, if it's inappropriate sexually, whatever the case is, then the wedding professional will go to the actual client, which is often the couple, maybe it's the mom or dad, whatever, to say, I am putting you on notice of problematic behavior that I'm observing as it's directed towards me. You need to take steps to relieve this. If not, I'm going home. So what that means is that it allows the client to mitigate the problem. If there is a problem, it allows the client to mitigate that problem before any extra steps are taken. So having a policy within your own company and having that incorporated into the contract is important. You don't want to go to DEFCON 1. I don't remember which one. You don't want to go to the extreme right off the bat. You want to make sure that there is de-escalation in whatever the issue is, and you want to make sure that the de-escalation is being handled by people that are closest to the alleged offending party. So in this instance, if the person made the phone call that is, let's say, that is one of the employees of the venue, then if the policies and procedures were there and the contract was there, then they would go to the client, if the client is the couple, and say, hey, listen, this individual is doing these things. What's the story? Can you make sure they don't do that? And if if that continues to happen, then we have the right to stop the event, and then everybody goes home, right? Something along those lines, and that way, you're not immediately going to the police. Now, I'm not saying that if something is truly bad is happening, if there literally is a fist fight, there's weapons involved, things like that, yes, call the police. That's if somebody's in immediate danger, call the police. But to the extent that there's everything else, then allow the client a chance to de-escalate. So at the end of the day, having policies and procedures as it relates to serving of alcohol, having people that are trained to serve the alcohol, that are qualified and have the appropriate license to serve the alcohol, and then finally having your own policies and procedures in place and having your contract explicitly state how problematic behavior is going to be addressed by you as the professional, and allowing the client to do the de-escalation wherever possible. These are going to be ways, at least in my experience, that allow for situations to not get out of hand. And hopefully these will be things that you can do that will really minimize or eliminate the possibility moving forward of something super tragic happening at one of your events. This is a pretty heavy video this week. I apologize, but I just saw this in the news, and I really wanted to address it. There are some things that happened that I think that we can learn from. It's tragic. I understand it. It's tragic. I hope that if the facts bear it, the family gets justice. But at the end of the day, I just want us to learn, and hopefully this won't happen again. New videos just like this every week on Monday. Wedding Industry Law, folks. I really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.